expand as much as possible, and we have log of the cube root of 100 times x all over y squared. All right, so what does it mean to expand? Okay, so here in the expression we see one log, right? And in the argument, looks a little bit complicated, right? So there's multiple terms in the argument of this single log. All right, so what we want to do is we want to use the rules for logs in order to sort of break this guy down. Okay, first of all, how many different terms do we see in this argument? We see the 100, we see the x, and the y squared, right? There are 3 terms in this argument for logs. So when we expand, right, we essentially want to see 3 different logs in the final answer. Now here, this cube root is sort of going to cause some issues, right? So we'll deal with that. Okay, so what are the 3 rules that we use? Okay, well, the order doesn't really matter, but I would suggest using the quotient rule first. And then I would suggest using the product rule next. Okay. Once again, if you want to use product rule first and then quotient rule second, that's fine. One thing though, you do or you should use a power rule last, always, okay, whenever we expand. Okay. Now, once again, this cube root is going to cause some issues. Now, there's a couple ways to deal with this, but what I'm going to do is I'm just going to apply that to each term, right? So it's the cube root of 100 times the cube root of x all over the cube root of y squared. Okay. Remember, this is the cube root, right? So the log doesn't have a number down here, right? So that's automatically implied that the base is going to be 10. Okay, so I'm going to apply the cube to each of the 3 terms here. And now I'm going to use my rules. Okay, so the quotient rule says we can break this up into the log of the numerator minus the log of the denominator. So log of the cube root of 100 times the cube root of x, okay, minus log of the cube root of y squared. Okay. Remember, these terms essentially go together, right? And now I can use a product rule, right? Because this is a product, I can break this down again into the sum of the 2 respective logs. So log of the cube root of 100 plus the log of the cube root of x minus the log of the cube root of y squared. Okay. And as we see here, yeah, now we have 3 separate logs, right? We have 3 separate logs, which is good, right? That's what we wanted, because we noticed that there were 3 terms initially in the argument. Okay, now remember, we're not done yet though, right? Because we do have to use a power rule last. Well, how are we going to use a power rule here? I remember the key is this cube root can be written as an exponent, right? We can write that as log 100 to the 1/3 power. So similarly, log of x to the 1/3 power minus log of y squared, and all of that to the 1/3 power. And then the power rule says we have to bring this down. That becomes the coefficient. So it's the 1/3 log of 100 plus 1/3 log of x. Here you got to be careful with this, right? Multiply these together, get 2/3, so we can bring down that 2/3 log of y. Okay. And of course, log of 100 is just 2, right? Remember, this is a log base 10. So 10 to the 2nd power is 100. So then finally we can multiply that 1/3. Remember, this is just equal to 2 here. So we get 2/3 plus 1/3 log x minus 2/3 log of y. Okay, and this should be our final answer once we properly expand this.